No doubt in my mind, if Richard Glossop had had Donald Knight as one of his lawyers, he would not even have been convicted, because he would have done what a lawyer does, all the things he pointed to. I'm here because I wrote to Richard Glossop. We exchanged letters, and on January the 11th, by having a conversation with some of the people working the hardest to save Richard's life, Crystal Martinez and Kim Van Atta, I found out that Richard had put me down to be with him when he was executed. When I talked to Richard, he said, well, Sister Helen, I knew I was taking a chance, but I said, why not? You know, if I could get somebody to be with me, I'd like you to be with me. And I bolted awake that night saying, oh my God, Richard has asked me to be with him when he's executed. And I do not believe in walking quietly into that dark night when the state and the government kill people, even when they're guilty. And so I said, got to go to Oklahoma, got to see what I can do. And that's what led me to pick up a phone and talk to Kathleen Lord and call Don Knight and summon Mark Olive, because what we have on our hands now, I wrote about this in The Death of Innocence, about accompanying two people whom I believe are innocent, and I give you all the reasons why. And they were killed anyway. Because what happens is, if that investigation doesn't happen at trial, and then you don't have good appeals lawyers who do the direct appeal to the state Supreme Court and put in all the stuff that's reasons for doubt, he is going to be killed. In fact, the chances are overwhelming that Richard Glossop, it's going to be really hard to get a hearing in the courts. They're going to say he's been through the courts. And sometimes you hear in the Supreme Court people like Justice Scalia say, look, yeah, they had fair trials. Due process of the law was done. They had a defense. They had juries. They had appeals. Proceed. But I have met Richard Glossop, and I know Richard Glossop, and I know he should not die, and he must not die. And I want to say to the people of Oklahoma, the people you say, the death penalty you say you believe in is not the one Oklahoma has in practice. It's supposed to be what Don described as for the worst of the worst and in the most terrible circumstances where there's no doubt. That's what the people believe in. That's when you have a death penalty in a state. That's what the death penalty is supposed to be, but not for innocent people. And the people of Oklahoma are decent, good people. I've met you. And so what we have to do is we are scrambling now against great odds. You know, you often hear, oh yeah, the lawyers are in it for the money. They're all in it for the money. Well, these guys aren't being paid a dime to defend this man. And I'm trying to hustle for money. Everybody's trying to get money to pay investigators to just get out there to do what was never done. And then all these people have died, all these witnesses have died, and it's meager pickings out there. And that's why Don said, anybody listening to this who has any kind of clue about this, and you can get, where'd you give your number, Don? Not only are you in it up to your earlobes, but now you're up to your eyebrows. What number do we have people calling, Don, if they have a clue?
303-797-1645.
So all I want to say today is what I know and have seen close up is here we have another man. And we have when people talk about that the death penalty system is broken, that we have 4 governors now that have called for a moratorium in their state because it's broken. The governor of Colorado, the governor of Oregon, the governor of Washington State, the governor of Pennsylvania. They know it's broken. Commission's looking at it. This is what they mean by the brokenness. And the ultimate travesty would be that the broken system leads to the death of an innocent person. So that's where are we going from here? is there's a great article on The Intercept, the Twitter feed of it, a great article, investigative article done on Richard Glossop's case, and urge all of you to get a hold of that, because this was never presented at trial. All that Don is presenting now to us was the jury never heard. And you know, I feel bad for juries. They're ordinary citizens brought into these cases, and they can only go by what they hear in the courtroom. And when they heard Justin Sneed say, yeah, Richard Glossop paid me money, that's the one aggravating circumstance that qualified for the death penalty. Because this is what you would call a small-time drug deal gone wrong murder. Whenever do you hear of the death penalty is sought for that? So there are just a lot of things, and there I am looking into Richard's eyes and visiting with him. Honestly, he's one of the sweetest people I think I've ever met. He has an impeccable record on death row. He never causes trouble. He's found a way actually to live in peace where he is. He doesn't even harbor really angry, outraged feelings at Justin Sneed. He said Justin's scared too. He admits he did things wrong by not just telling all the truth that he knew right away, and that it made it look bad and they went after him. And it was an easy thing. Justin Sneed said he did it. You got him. Let's go for him. So thank you for being here today. The media are really important as we as a nation begin to come to grips with this, to get information to the people so questions can be raised. And we have two avenues that'll save Richard's life, only two. One is that one of the courts, either at the state level or the federal level, will let what is called a successor petition come in and say, yeah, we know he's been through the courts, but would you look at this? Doesn't this deserve a hearing to look into it again? And the other avenue is in the office of the governor, Governor Fallon, because the executive of a state has that added power when justice hasn't been done to be able to set into place some mechanism so that there can be a hearing into the true facts of the case so that justice can be done. Those are our two avenues. If you go on to Richard Glossop's webpage, richardeglossop.org, you'll see all these avenues. .com. richardeglossop.com. You can give all the Intercept article is on there too, and the numbers to call and to reach the governor and everybody. Thank you very much.
Questions now?
We'll take questions.
Yeah.
Questions?
Don, you mentioned this 30 or this several $1,000s for blue dye on it. Why hasn't that ever come up before?
Well, the truth of the matter is I haven't had enough time to go through every piece of paper on this case. There are lots of pieces of paper. And also, not all of the money had blue dye on it. I think there were several of the bills that had blue dye on it, but not all of them. Apparently, what I understand is that even the Van Treese family, Donna Van Treese, Barry Van Treese's wife, didn't want the money. I don't know any of the details about that yet, and I'll find out, but I can't answer that question right now.
Have you had a chance to talk with the Van Treese family?
Not yet, no, that's something that I need to do, and that's very important that I need to do that.
And have you had a chance to review Justin Sneed's original confession video of the interrogation that had a piece of it erased prior to trial?
I understand that there have been allegations made that some of that was erased. I understand that. As of yet, and I have reviewed it, but I haven't found any evidence that there was any of that erased.
What's your next step in the legal process?
Well, investigation. And we need evidence of innocence. That's our bottom line right now. That gets us back into court if we can find it. So we have to continue to investigate.
But in your opinion, Justice Sneed is your only avenue to finding that innocence?
We hope not. We hope not. I mean, he is certainly the most direct route. No question about that.
What other type of evidence are you looking for?
Well, as I said, there were other people at that motel. Let's just say one of those people came forward and said, what Justin Sneed has said didn't happen. Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened in room 102. Because I'm fairly certain that what Justin Sneed says happened in room 102, other than the fact that he was the one with the baseball bat. I'm fairly certain that other things went on in that room.
So you're gonna rely primarily on eyewitness testimony? Is there any kind of hard evidence, fingerprints, DNA?
That's a great question. There is no forensic evidence in this case. This case relies 100% on Justin Sneed with a little bit of help from some other people with regard to the fact that Richard Glossop had cash on him.
What about the baseball bat and fingerprints on it?
Every fingerprint went to Justin Sneed. Richard
the bat
Glossop
was missing. They
Yes, the
never-
bat was missing, right. Justin Sneed says he threw it in a dumpster, and they never found the bat. So the forensics in this case, such as they are, all point to Justin Sneed. Nothing points to Richard Glossop. As I said, this is the very thinnest of reeds here. So I don't know what happened in room 102, but I have a feeling that there were other people who were there, and they might know, and that would sure help.
What efforts have you made in the past, and what will you be doing in the future to try to persuade Justin Sneed to at least meet with you, talk with you?
We know that Justin Sneed's daughter, Orion Justine Sneed, sent a letter to the clemency board. I think it arrived late. And that letter said that her father, Justin Sneed, had told her that he was feeling bad about what he had said, feeling bad about what had happened, and wanted to tell the truth. We have made extensive efforts to find Justine Sneed. A lot of efforts. A lot of our time has been spent because she said she has a letter or letters from her father that state that he was feeling bad about the stories that he told, and he really wanted to come forward. But we haven't been able to find her. We haven't been able to find those letters. I think those would be a great help. If she's out there, if she hears any of this, please contact us.
Uh,
She's the only one that he, or that Justin has maybe possibly recanted to.
Well, the only one that I know of, yeah, the only one that I know of. I can't say more than that, so.
So you've been not given a direct interview with Justin Sneed?
I have yet to ask for a direct interview with Justin Sneed. One of our lawyers has, in fact, had a direct interview with Justin Sneed.
What was the contents of that interview?
At this point in time, I really don't want to disclose any of that.
How often are you in communication with Glossop, and do you know how he's holding up emotionally with the thought of death in 65 days?
Richard Glossop is in great shape. He's in better shape than I am. I've been with people before who've been in a really tight place. I mean, he just feels that God's close in his life, that sent all these lawyers to him, and he feels in a protected space. And I'm glad. And I learned a long time ago from a veteran capital defense lawyer, Millard Farmer. He says, I go to see my clients and they look me in the eye and they say, am I going to die? And I look them in the eye and I say, you are not going to die. We are going to, whatever it's going to be, but you are not going to die. And that is the feeling I communicate to Richard, but we're fighting like you know what behind the scenes. And I know the uphill battle we have. It's going to take a miracle. But you got to fight. You got to do everything you can. You got to get lawyers. You got to get investigators. You got to make an appeal to people. Come forward, or this is going to happen. And then we'll see what happens. He's wonderful to be with. Anybody who's visited with him, he doesn't go after other people. He's not angry at other people. My only word for him, he's a sweet guy. And so I just visited with him on Friday and on Saturday. So I said, Richard, till we really get close, I'll be there on the phone for you. We can talk on the phone. He goes, fine. He never asks you for a lot of things at all. And so that's how I see him.
Don, based on
Hold
the
one
information-
second. I visited him on Friday and Saturday as well. I've seen him one other time, and I'm sure that I'll be seeing him a lot more in the next several weeks.
Based on the interview.
Hold on, she's gets a follow-up.
My one other question, if he were to be found innocent, like, do you have any idea how he would dedicate the rest of his life, you know, how he would spend his freedom? Do you have plans on, plan on that?
Hey, Richard, you're innocent. What you want to do, you promise it. Because, see, he's really good at businesses. He could take motels and bring them back. I would think he'd probably want to go to work somewhere, because that's who he is. He said that to me in one visit. He said, if I could just work, man, I like to work. I'm good at working. That motel, when I took it over, you know, they had all these rooms that they were unusable, fixed them up, got them working. The motel was doing well. And, you know, that's one of the motives, supposedly, right? That
Yeah,
they said.
it's real interesting how they tried to paint the fact that Richard maybe couldn't get another job somewhere else or something, that he was stuck there. And the truth of the matter is, Richard always worked. And he says, you know, I would not have had a problem getting another job as soon as that one was done if he had fired me for any reason. He had no reason to fire him. 11 of the 12 previous months, there was a bonus system that Barry Van Treese had set up to give a bonus to Richard if, in fact, certain monetary guidelines were met. In 11 of the previous 12 months, he earned his bonus. So he was doing all right, and he could work, and he knows how to work. Richard comes from a difficult family. I would tell you, Richard comes from a very difficult family. Like I said, Bobby Glossop was not Richard Glossop. Bobby Glossop was a different guy. His entire family, as a matter of fact, had a lot of difficulties. These were folks who came from poor backgrounds, and they struggled. And Richard was, no doubt, heads and tails above the rest of the members of his family as far as his integrity was concerned and his honesty was concerned. He didn't engage in that kind of criminal activity.
Based on the conversation that either your lawyer or investigator had with Mr. Sneed, were you encouraged by what came out of that? Did you find anything useful that you can use? I mean, you don't want to disclose the contents of what was said, but what was the general feeling after the meeting?
Here's what I want to say about Justin Sneed. Justin Sneed struggled. Justin Sneed had a rough life. Justin Sneed was undoubtedly scared to death when this took place. This all comes from what I know about Justin Sneed, not from anything that anybody said, because I'm not going to comment on what anybody said to Justin Sneed. I'm just telling you that Justin Sneed had a lot of reason to be scared. He was facing a potential death sentence himself. They told him that. You don't want to have a death sentence. You killed this man.
Are you saying the police coerced you?
You're putting words in my mouth, aren't you?
Well, that's a yes or no question.
I'm not saying the police coerced him. I'm saying that the police use things, tactics, ways of questioning people that police do. That's part of the repertoire of being a police officer. They did what they needed to do. They got the confession that they needed. They got the statements that they needed in order to go ahead and point the finger at Richard Glossop. I wasn't there. I can't say more than that.
So going back to the meeting, was there anything useful that came out of the meeting with Justin Sneed?
I'm not going to talk about the meeting anymore. Thanks.
Sneed was 19 at the time?
I believe
Yeah.
so. I believe he was 19. That's right.
How confident are you that the courts will actually hear all of this evidence that you're working on? You know, that's one of your only outlets is to gather all this information, hopefully get some transcripts and get somebody to say something. But how likely is it that the courts will actually hear whatever you gather? Does that depend on the content of what you get?
Absolutely. Innocence is really, I think, the only thing we have left. And I'm scared to death, quite frankly. I'm scared to death. I am terrified that we can't get enough information to get back in front of a court. The odds are steep.
Sister Helen and Attorney Knight, how hard is it to get so close to an inmate, just to see them on the road to the hospital despite all the violence?
It's probably the hardest thing that I've ever done is to meet human beings, even those who are guilty are more than the worst thing they ever did in their life. There's more to every person than a single crime, even when it's an unspeakable crime. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, because here's a person who's alive with all that potential for life. And the God I believe in, the Jesus I believe in, is a redemptive one for restoration of life and not the killing of life. And then I'm so sorry for my country, my government, for the people of Oklahoma, that you, like my state, Louisiana, like, 32 states in this country, are on this death row, that we feel the only way we can really give a signal that you shouldn't kill is to kill the criminals who do these crimes. And we set ourselves up that we'll be able to determine who they are, and then we're going to kill them. And I feel bad for the guards and for the warden at that prison, who are themselves. Can you imagine? And we have more and more and more stories coming out, like Ron McAndrews, who was the warden in Florida. He participated in 2 executions that happened on his watch. He gives public talks, and he says, I'm still in therapy. I went to be a warden of that penitentiary as an honorable profession, and here I was involved in the killing of a defenseless person who struggled to die, and I was part of that. And he publicly, Ron McAndrews from Florida, you can get him to come speak about what happened to him. So we have more and more people who've been involved in the process, guards, wardens. And I know the feeling in that prison just from the people I've met. Those are some good and decent people that I've met over at McAllister in the prison there, including Warden Trammell. Very decent people. And thought that they would have to be involved in this to just do your job. My heart goes out to them as well.
I can't answer that any better than she just did.
Sister Helen, you spoke about your faith and your the belief that you're going to need a miracle now. Obviously, this is something that you have been praying about for a while. Is this the fact that there's not been any movement say anything about what God feels about in this case? Or
What God
feels
feels.
about the death penalty?
I've been trained in miracles. I don't know that I've been trained in miracles. I believe this. I can see in the people of the nation that consciousness is shifting on this. More and more people are recognizing that we don't need the death penalty, that we can be safe without it. The miracle of what needs to be transformed is our consciousness, our hearts, the way we, the people, understand, because we're the ones then who get to the legislature. We are the ones who get to the governor. So it's the transformation in the hearts of the people that I work for. And I have even, as I just mentioned, come to feel compassion for the people who have to do the killing. I have a story in Dead Man Walking about Fenton Cootie, who had been a supervisor on death row, and then he had to be there during executions. And after 5 executions, he called me in. He said, "Sister, I'm going to have to quit this job. I've been with 5 of these people." And when you see it close like that, and they're the ones who are bearing the burden of it. So the way God works, as I've come to understand, the God that Jesus revealed is a personal, loving God who cares about us, even like a sparrow falling to the ground, each of us. And we've been put on this earth to do that for each other.